Hey there, and welcome back to another Miraculous Ladybug Season 6 review. And today we're going to be talking about the latest episode to drop, Werepapas. I think this is meant to be episode 5, so we're still just randomly going out of order. Oh well. I feel like it matters less when we're talking about the beginning of the season for the most part, and it is rather amusing to see Disney get gloobed. So yeah, this was a pretty hefty episode, wasn't it? I actually rather enjoyed it, and it sets up a lot of potential storylines. It explains a few others, and crafts an air of mystery that the show probably needs. We've seen so many theories come true over the years, so it's time for a few new ones. Anyway, with all that being said, it's time to jump into the episode. Let's go! So we start off the episode with a flashback to Adrian's childhood to get a scene with him and Emily. Thank goodness. Remember briefly at the end of Season 5 when we all thought that Emily had been revived by Gabe's wish at the same time as Natalie? At least, until Asterix told us it was just Amelie. Well, in that brief moment where we could all speculate, we got to imagine all the awesome story potential of Emily and Adrian. Sadly, we didn't get to see that play out going forward, so that's why it's great to see her here in flashback format. Now that we don't need things kept as mysterious about her, and since there's a lot of relevant story that only these flashbacks can give us, I think it's smart to start peppering them in when they're needed. So this scene is basically Emily telling Adrian that they don't speak to her parents because they're not good people and they don't get along. This prompts Adrian to ask whether that means that Gabe doesn't love him, because he's never around. So I guess Gabe was always just a truly terrible absentee father then, and Adrian was seemingly solely raised by his sickly mother. Damn, could his story get any sadder at this point? Also, my god, little Adrian is so damn cute!
I've only had Arlo for a day and a half, but if anything happened to him, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself.
And at the same time, this scene sets up two major hooks for the episode. One, that Adrian needs some love, goddammit, and two, the looming spectre of his grandparents. We see this start to play out in the very next scene, where Adrian breaks down after looking into his parents' room and goes to hug Natalie, but she seems like she feels guilty about that and like it's not her place to hug him and comfort him, and so they both come away from the interaction feeling like shit. After this, she gets a call from Adrian's maternal grandparents who've decided they're going to visit, so everything is going pretty badly in the Agreste household. But we get some fun narrative contrast in the next scene, where Marinette's family have gathered for a family lunch. To say that they're eager to meet Adrian is the understatement of the century. Tom is super keen to the point of being slightly creepy. I mean, look at that face. Rather hilariously, this seems to be a family trait from his parents, as Tom suggests that Adrian could come over for lunch on Sunday, with him, Roland, and Gina, all enthusiastically chanting about how she should invite him, whilst it's Sabine that tries to fend them off. I have to say, the sight of Roland getting in on the action was very strange. It almost felt out of character for him, considering what a stick in the mud he's been previously. But at the same time, it adds another layer to his character as well, which I did enjoy. They don't let up, and they get very invested in Marinette talking about her future wedding, and children, and hamsters, at age 15. This family is something else, I gotta tell ya. Such a fun and goofy scene, and one that makes a nice narrative and visual contrast to Adrian's family. So Marinette heads up to her room and asks Adrian to come over to lunch with her whole family creeping up through the trapdoor. Okay, so this episode really cements where Marinette's stalker vibes and lack of boundaries seem to come from. It is hereditary. Also, imagine being this invested in your 15-year-old daughter's couple weeks old relationship. Although I suppose it is better than the writers trying to force Tom to have this weird threaten the boyfriend type storyline. That type of thing's well and truly played out, and honestly it wouldn't work for Tom's character. So for them to be overly enthusiastic works for me, even if it tingles my cringeometer. Adrian of course tells her that he can't go because he's meeting his grandparents, both sets of them at once. We already know that Emily had differences with her parents, and here we learn that Gabe never spoke about his parents to Adrian, ever. Man, more and more this episode has convinced me that Gabe truly sucks. There's another scene later on that makes me think that as well. Dude came from pretty humble origins. He met Emily, he fell in love, he got some money as a fashion designer and grew rich and powerful, but was still seemingly gifted that mansion from Emily's parents, or maybe bought it off them. Then he cuts off his own parents and changes his name. Dude. When we meet his parents, they seem so nice. So he really does give me huge class trader vibes. A man who came up in the world and was suddenly too good for his old life and old people and old family, and so he cut them out. And what makes it worse, that on top of that, he didn't even bother with engaging with the new family that he gave up his old family for. What a douchebag. Real talk, but Adrian is better off without him. And it honestly seems like a bit of a orange flag to me that Emily was even with this guy to begin with. Since Adrian's so stressed out, Marinette decides that she's also going to attend the family lunch, and since it's only meant to be for family, she dresses up as wait staff so she can be allowed in the room. Honestly, it's a pretty decent plan, so long as she can keep her clumsiness at bay. But yes, it's an exclusive lunch, to the point that even Natalie can't be in the room, as she isn't family, although this just makes Adrian sad, as he considers her a mother figure. And her continually saying things like, "I'm not his mother," just makes him feel rejected. I swear to God, every lead character in this show would be so much better off with some therapy. But the people in the Agreste family orbit, most especially. For God's sake, hasn't Adrian lost both his parents in a single year? Book him in! So first up, Emily's parents, Emil and Millie, turn up. Yeah, Emil and Millie. Millie. Emily. Truly a marvel of deep and intelligent writing. Then again, there are actually legit people that do that to name their kids, and at least it isn't the worst wacko combination name I've heard in my life. Renesmee? Anybody? Immediately, this dude proves that he's a massive ass. Talking about Adrian like he isn't even there at first, and marveling at how his daughter and Gabe managed to produce a half-decent looking child, before demanding his grandson call him Lord Graham instead of grandfather. Can you imagine what family dinners were like with this guy and Gabe going head-to-head and raging at one another? Truly the stuff of nightmares. Next up, we meet Johnny and Gabrielle, who ride in on a motorbike and feel very free-spirited. They go to shake hands with Millie, only for Emil to roughly grab his wife's hand and tug it away, and talk over her, introducing himself as the Duke of Westchester Munster. That title is the most ridiculous sounding name ever. Moving on, Adrian then gets to speak to his paternal grandparents, who tell him that he's even more darling in person. So Gabe didn't completely cut them off. He still dangled the carrot by sending them pictures of Adrian. Actually, scratch that, it was more likely to be Emily doing that. Or hell, did they just see the advertisements for him for his modelling gigs? That'd be even more sad. Also, wouldn't you think they'd be a little bit more cut up that their only son died very recently? The aristocrats, I get it. And it's been a fair bit longer since Emily died. But these guys, you'd think there'd be a bit more shock or grief. He's only been dead for a few weeks, right? I know they weren't really in contact, but still, maybe they weren't good parents either, and that's why he cut them off. Who knows? They then get a whiff of something rather pungent, only for Gabe's dad to reveal that he brought some food of his own, and it stinks up the whole joint. So it's off to the oven to heat them up, with Plag making his way into the kitchen to try to steal some for himself. This Kwame seemed to have bad self-control with this sort of thing. Bad luck for Adrian because he can't go and stop Plag from being a nuisance since he's busy with his family. He does try to duck out and find him, but Marinette proves to be too devoted and too kind, which means she goes to comfort him, which in turn forces him to go back. We then come to the crux of this scene, which is deeply rage-inducing. Seriously, this guy is how to write a hateable character 101. He comes in after the scene in the prologue acknowledged that he wasn't a very good father to Emily. He turns up, is rude and controlling towards his wife and cold to his grandson, forcing him to call him by his title. Despite us knowing that Adrian loves Natalie and wants to stay with her forever, and Natalie's facial expression outside the door making it clear she feels the same way, he degrades her as only an employee. He yells at his wife, calls her useless multiple times. When Johnny accidentally burns the food he brought, he makes fun of it and of their northern heritage. And stuff like this always interests me. No matter what the country is, seems there's always a specific region that gets looked down on by the rest of the country. Is that the case here? I googled it and it said that the rest of France jokes that the northern French are inbred and alcoholics. Why is it always inbreeding? Always. Alabama is the famous one. In Australia, that dubious honour goes to Tasmania. And now we have Northern France joining the party. Also, it was very cute that Millie was determined to eat this food, even if it was burnt, and she had to use a nutcracker to get the stuff inside. It is very impressive that somebody can burn something so thoroughly that it takes a full-on nutcracker to get inside it. Anyway, like I said, this guy sucks. He continues to talk down to the Cressettes and tells his wife to shut up multiple times. Suffer in silence like you always do. My God! Her whole marriage has been like this, I bet. This woman needs a divorce. The writers won't do it, and this guy will soften out into a pompous but harmless man who gets slapped down by his wife from time to time if the ending of the episode is anything to go off, but he really does need to go. He loses the twin rings, and then he blames Johnny because obviously the lower class people must be the root of all evil. How dare they exist in the same room as Lord Pompous of Snob Hall? On top of that, he tries to force the Cressettes to sign a contract agreeing to give him full custody of Adrian, whilst also agreeing to never try to see him again. What the hell? Somebody beat this man with a stick. Throw him away. He is absolute trash. Imagine looking down on somebody for the simple crime of owning a fast food stall. Oh, the horror. A small business owner. Pfft. The argument continues with Millie getting more and more upset and belligerent and red-faced. What is in these things? Booze? Drugs? She does kind of start to lose it and become less and less sane the more she eats, to the point of swiping the twin rings and running away cackling, locking the door, ranting about the patriarchy, and now that since she has the rings, that means she's in control. In fairness to her though, the rest of them weren't faring much better with the whole looking like sane and responsible potential guardians for Adrian thing, with the two dads fighting over the rings and Marinette going as far to tickle Emil to get him to drop them. Seriously, she tickles him. Very strange moment of the episode. Also, Emil slapping the food out of his wife's hands? Nah. Trip to the lawyer's office. Please file. Today he's slapping food. Tomorrow he's slapping face. Of course, off Millie goes with everybody in pursuit, but she's safe behind the locked door where she's found by an Akuma. Once again, I'm very impressed in the varied way they get Lila to speak to different characters. Here, she's very gentle, very open, not commanding or dominant in any way, as she knows that Millie would respond poorly to that, as the fight and her husband's controlling ways are what led to her emotional state to be akumatized in the first place. So she's turned into Ringmaster, and decides that she's going to punish the two men by turning them into werewolves and forcing them to fight each other in a boxing match, despite both of them protesting that they don't want it to go that far. She also locks Adrian up in a championship trophy as the grand prize, preventing him from transforming, as if he escaped, everybody would know he's Cat Noir, which would be less than ideal. So the battle arena is built in the sky, and now it's up to Ladybug to save the day alone, as Cat Noir's not available. Pretty sure this is the first time we get to see the transformation sequence for Ladybug in the new era. Looks pretty good, although there was a shot of Marinette's hair that looked majorly wonky at the same time. So Ladybug arrives and the battle begins, and yeah, it's fine. It's high octane, good action sequence, but let's be real, there was never any sense of peril, never really any stakes to the fight itself. She very quickly 3 versus 1s the villains and absolutely crushes them. At the same time though, despite it being rather easy, it works well because that's not where the drama of the scene comes from at all. The true drama of the scene comes from the fact that the Akuma is in the twin rings, which is where Adrian's Amok is hinted to be inside. So if she breaks the rings, there's a chance she kills him as part of it. In the end, she goes through with it and only an Akuma comes out, which she cleanses, then she reverses everything and Adrian's still there A-OK. Which does leave questions. Did he briefly vanish and get brought back with the Miraculous Ladybug reversal? Is there something else going on here? I reckon that'll actually take up a whole video of its own, so stay tuned to that. Ladybug gives out the protective charm, and then it's back to the family drama, as ultimately, that's what the episode's been about. The actual villain battle just felt like it was there to check the box for a superhero show, but what the writers really wanted to do was have a full Agreste family soap opera episode. I'm not complaining either, I've been enjoying it. We finish off with a cute little scene where Adrian now has to choose where he wants to live. He feels conflicted, and so it's time for Marinette to put her foot down. She drags in Natalie and gets Adrian to admit he wants to stay with her, which of course she reciprocates. They hug, she's his new mum now, and it's all very cute. Gorilla cries as well, which was very adorable. I love Gorilla. Not only that, but Lord Graham, the asshole and snob, turns out he was a bunch of bluster as he gets his ass humbled and suddenly it's all happy families and they all go out to eat some fries. Look at that! Everybody in the extended family living their best lives and bonding now that Gabe is dead. I'm starting to think that the major problem in this family and the reason for all the estrangement in the first place was simply because Gabe is an asshole. And the final flashback scene where he ignores young Adrian with Natalie being the one to come and spend time with him while Emily looks on was, well, there's proof of that, and it was intriguing to say the least. Surprise, surprise, Gabe was always a poor quality father, and clearly Emily was hoping that Natalie would look after Adrian because she knew that Gabe wouldn't. Isn't that just so sad? These poor Graham Divinilli women, they have the worst partners ever. Lord Graham just sucks, Colt was trash, and we all know about Gabe. Damn. I do have more thoughts about the Gabe and Emily stuff, but that kind of fits in with my thoughts on the Amok and Adrian in another video. So for now, that's the end of the episode. A good episode this time. I had a lot of fun with it. And it was good to expand the cast and meet some new characters, get some Agreste family lore. I want more of the paternal side too. I want more on Gabe and his younger years and what actually happened there. Either way, we're in for an exciting time with the show. I'm hyped. So with all that being said, these have just been my opinions and I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the episode? Did you like it, hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment and subscribe and let me know.